Welcome back, guys, and welcome to the Riverhogs off season. And we're just going to jump right into things here because we have a new head coach to hire, as Andy Reid did retire following the season. So I'm just going to run through the options we have available first. There's a lot of different created coaches as we move down the list, and I wanted to look for someone with a different scheme, but a lot of these created coaches unfortunately have generic defenses. Todd Bowles obviously fired from the Jets there, and then down here at the bottom we have Griffin Murphy, who was the Patriots coach, and Pat Shurmur in here as well. But with the way I play, I stick pretty tightly to what the coach scheme says and use playbooks that fit with that. And the fact that a lot of these created coaches would require generic playbooks, at least on defense, and then offensively, the only vertical zone run playbook in the game is the Cowboys. So I wanted to keep my options kind of open there. But looking at Griffin Murphy, he actually has three traits that none of the other coaches have in expert scouting: increased player weekly goal XP, and then he is also apparently a master trade negotiator. So that kind of separated him out from the bunch from the beginning. And then something I always hear is that New England has the best playbooks in the game, and I believe their defensive book has both 4-3 and 3-4, so that will allow me to do some different things, which I like. And Griffin Murphy is ultimately who I put an offer out for, and as we advance the week, you will soon see that Griffin Murphy has accepted that offer and has become the new head coach of the Portland Riverhogs. But moving along to regression, I'll move through this pretty quick, but as you can see to start here, Eric Fisher barely went down at all. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif has hit 29 years old, which means his decline has started. And then Daniel Sorensen hits 30 years old and got hit pretty hard by regression. But moving along, Jordan Devy and James Winchester both hit hard, but not key players, and Devy will be gone, so no worries there. Eric Berry gets hit on some attributes, but at 31, still a very solid player. And then moving along again, same story with Justin Houston, hit a little bit, but not much. Mitchell Schwartz, however, gets obliterated by regression and sees a big drop off, while Dustin Colquitt sees a -1 on an attribute that means nothing. And then as we wrap up here, we see three guys that all get hit pretty hard, but all have questionable future roles with the team. All three were on one-year deals, so the likelihood of any of the three coming back is very unlikely, as we'll be looking to upgrade. Moving on to progression, we're going to start with the guy who had the most skill points and work our way down, and Patrick Mahomes had 4 and saw a big jump in ratings as his awareness, which means nothing, went up 6. Mid-accuracy improved 4, while both deep and short went up 2 apiece. Throw on the run also went up 2, and play action went up 1, as he goes from an 83 to an 87 overall. Tyreek Hill had 3 skill points and also saw some big upgrades, as he went up 5 for catch in traffic, 4 in trucking because choo-choo motherfuckers. Medium route running and catching went up 3, while awareness, deep route running, release, and short route running all went up 2, and then stiff arm went up 1 as well. Kendall Fuller, one of our best defenders, had 2 skill points and saw the biggest boost in awareness and play rec, but did also go up 2 in man coverage and tackle. Our first rookie to progress was Jatavius Spearman, who had 2 skill points and saw a nice upgrade to man coverage and press. Zone coverage went up 2, while play rec, tackle, and awareness all went up 1. At some point during the season as well, Spearman also saw his dev trait go from quick to star. Moving along, our third rounder, Jose Lopez, who spent the whole year starting at center, he saw his awareness and pass block go up 3, strength went up 2, and then lead block, run block, impact blocking, and pass block finesse all went up 1. Travis Kelce only had 1 skill point, but saw a big boost as 10 different attributes saw increases, with pass block power being the biggest at +3. Awareness and short route running both go up 2, while break tackle, catching, deep route running, pass block finesse, release, run block finesse, and stiff arm all go up 1. Back to our rookies, where Long Winborn came on strong towards the end of the season, but only finished with 1 skill point, but made the most of it as his catch in traffic and medium route running both went up 2. Agility, ball carrier vision, elusiveness, run blocking, and short route running all went up 1 as well. Our first rounder, DeAndre McCray, also had some decent improvement, with his 1 skill point going up 2 in man and zone coverage, as well as strength, block shedding, play rec, and speed also all go up 1. And then affectionately known as the Bulldozer, Kirkland Hebert had 1 skill point and improved his bulldozing blocking abilities, going up 2 in impact block, while run block, break tackle, and catch in traffic all went up 1 as well. And then our last rookie, Derek Reisner, started the majority of the year at left guard, and his 1 skill point went towards improving his awareness, lead block, pass block power, run block, and strength all 1 notch. And then moving on to retirements from around the league, I'm not sure if I missed a period or if there just wasn't many this season, but these are the only ones I saw on the transaction log, and nothing too exciting. LaShawn McCoy of the Bills was the most notable. Donald Penn of the Raiders, Andy Lee, Mercedes Lewis, Andy Levitre, Jeremy Parnell, and then another punter in the Texans, John Ryan. Ryan. All right, so before I get into the final negotiations, I wanted to show you guys the cap issues that I had heading into the offseason. So as you can see, I have $9.33 million in cap space, but $6.95 of that is actually tied up in the rookie reserve for my draft picks, which means I really only have about $2.38 million in cap space, and still with guys that we may want to re-sign. And if you look down there at Justin Houston, he's really the main thing in a lot of this. I could clear around $17 million by getting rid of him, but rather than outright release him, I'd like to see if I can get something for him, but I can't put him on the trade block until I actually make it to the offseason. So to kick things off, I had to make some kind of move to clear some cap space, so Daniel Sorensen was released. He never had much of a role for me this season and was also hit by regression pretty good. So with Jatavius Spearman starting, and I also have Armani Watts behind him, there really isn't much need for him. So that move cleared up enough space for me to offer a contract to and sign Zadarius Smith. With Houston likely on his way out, I wanted to try and keep someone capable of being a starter in case I couldn't draft or sign something better. And then negotiations with Buck Houston basically had to be withdrawn because of that limited cap space. Would have liked to keep him around for the preseason, but there's really just no room for him right now. As we move down the line though, negotiations were also withdrawn with Austin Traylor. He was signed mid-season, and my tight ends are pretty much set, so not much to worry about in letting him go. Same story with Brandon Oliver, who was our leading rusher last season, but letting him go has more to do with how hard he was hit by regression and the fact that running back is such a top priority heading into the offseason. But to that same extent, I did re-sign Kevin Newman. He had a few unimpressive carries in the AFC Championship, but I still think he can hold a roster spot as a backup and may actually end up taking Darrell Williams' spot on the roster moving into next season. And then the last two guys here, Zach Kerr, again, a guy that was hit hard with regression and having only signed to a one-year deal, wasn't expected to be back anyway. Then lastly, Lavon Coleman, who was part of our practice squad all season up until the AFC Championship, and just not really worth keeping him around, so we'll be moving on from him. So as we move to free agency, I'll give you a look at the free agent list, but by cutting Sorensen, it only really allowed me enough cap room to sign those two guys that I re-signed, and didn't really give me enough to actually work with when it came to free agents. So as soon as free agency started, I put Justin Houston on the trade block and just advanced to stage 2 because I knew I couldn't sign anyone anyway. Unfortunately, I got no offers for him, so I took a chance and just advanced to stage 3, but again, no trade offers. So at that point, I had to make the tough decision to just release Justin Houston. Tough decision, like I said, that's going to hurt an already horrible defense, but really needed the cap room, and he's getting up there in age, so it's got to be done. And while making that move does free up cap space, by getting too greedy and making that move too late, by the time stage 3 of free agency came around, there wasn't really anything left to pick up from a free agent standpoint. So I actually only ended up making 2 free agent signings, starting here with left end Morgan Fox, who I signed to a 3-year, $11.8 million contract with $3.24 of that guaranteed. And right now he slots into the starting left end role previously held by Stacey McGee. Would have liked to have gotten something better, but we'll continue to look at that position in the draft. But for now, he's going to be the starter. And then our other free agent signing was a reserve defensive tackle in Elijah Qualls, who I signed to a 2-year, $5.56 million deal with $1.7 million guaranteed. Right now, Derek Nottie is slated as the starter, and Qualls will get some time if I use the 4-3. I could have gotten someone better there, but I wanted to keep my spending in check just because anyone that I was going to add wasn't going to be guaranteed to be around for a very long time. So now I'll run you through where some of the top free agent signings ended up, or some that I felt were relevant. So the top free agent of the class was Miles Jack, who goes from the Jaguars and ends up signing with the Redskins. Running back Derrick Henry goes from the Titans and follows fellow Alabama running back Mark Ingram, who signed with Tampa Bay last year, as he is headed to the Bucs. Another Alabama running back is on the move as Kenyon Drake heads from Miami to Detroit to become the Lions' #1 back. Drew Brees hit free agency but returns home to New Orleans on a 1-year deal. The Saints did draft a quarterback last season, but it appears they're not quite ready for Bradford Wells to take the reins yet. Sean Lee moves on from the Cowboys to the Jets, and sources tell me he was injured trying to pick up the pen to sign his contract, and then as he knocked the pen on the ground, he also threw out his back trying to pick it up. Another Super Bowl champion is on the move as Keelan Cole stays within Florida but leaves the Jaguars to become a Buccaneer, so Tampa Bay making a couple of moves to improve their offense. Within our division, the Raiders add a new tight end, signing Eric Ebron from the Colts. Tavon Young goes from the Ravens to the Texans, and he's actually a guy I tried trading for in season 1 when we were still the Chiefs, but wasn't able to pull anything off. Another corner on the move as Byron Jones of the Cowboys heads to Miami to become a starter alongside Bobby McCain. And while the Cowboys lose Jones, they do add to their secondary as they sign Derek Kindred away from the Browns. And then the Chargers make a huge change as they sign Nick Foles to take the place of Phillip Rivers, who didn't actually end up being signed by anyone. So an interesting move there. And then lastly, Justin Houston didn't actually end up being signed until after free agency had closed, but he did end up signing with the Redskins on a one-year deal worth $3.55 million with no guaranteed money, which is hilarious being that he was due to make over $21 million for me this season. So before we get to the draft, I'll give you guys a quick recap of the scouting and draft stories that occurred leading up to it. During the week of the Super Bowl, we had a pair of draft tweets, starting with one from Todd McShay that reads, Loeffler toyed with the best defenders in college football at the All-Star game. He's going to be great at the next level. And then another from Ross Tucker that says, Tyree Reed really struggled at the All-Star game. That kind of performance isn't going to cut it in the NFL. So both of those players were added to the board along with cornerback Stacey Alexander and running back Leighton Rasby, who are both 5th round projections, but Rasby does have the 4th round true talent. Moving to stage 2 of the offseason, we had one more tweet from Charles Davis that reads, sources tell me that almost every team Garrett Pauly interviewed with came away impressed. And moving to the draft board, he was added along with Vaughn Quinn and Gordon Cummings, a pair of wide receivers that went missing from the scouting board during the season. Quinn had attitude issues, and then Cummings was injury related. Also added to the board were a pair of middle linebackers in Ladarius McCarthy and Andre Christie, who are both 4th round projections and true talent. That was the end of the stories and tweets though, and in stage 3 of the offseason, we only had a pair of additions to the board in Paul Curtis, another late round running back, and then Brian Windsor, an undrafted projection at outside linebacker out of New Hampshire. And then the final offseason stage saw another pair of additions as we added Rashad Gregory, a 2nd round projection at right guard out of Stanford. And then our last addition to the board was tight end Trey Utecht, who is a 4th round projection, but a 3rd round true talent. So as we enter the draft with the 29th overall pick, I'll give you guys a quick look at what was available. And the thing you're going to immediately notice is all the quarterbacks still available on the board. And as we move down the list, there just wasn't a whole lot of players available that really fit our needs, which was kind of the story of the entire draft. It always seemed like I was about 10 picks behind, but in the first round, things basically came down to Dalton Hargrove at right tackle to try and look for a replacement for the regressing Mitchell Schwartz, and then also Spencer Butram at left end. But with the 29th overall pick in the 2020 draft, we selected Dalton Hargrove, right tackle, Texas A&M, and this was a pretty disappointing pick. Was hoping for a bit more, and then also only the normal dev trait there. I forgot to switch the ratings with this pick, so just running through his ratings here: 64 awareness, 82 strength. He's more finesse than power, as he has 81 pass block finesse and 82 run block finesse, and then 76 run and pass block power. I may just throw him to the Wolves just because of how bad Mitchell Schwartz has been, but we're going to have to see on that. Moving to the 2nd round, though, with the 29th pick in the 2nd round, we selected Hamid Heyman, running back, Northern Iowa. And again, here, this one actually says good pick, but that normal dev trait is his downfall. Looking at his ratings, he doesn't look too bad. 90 speed, 86 carry, decent juke and spin moves. Nothing special, but he's definitely going to be getting his fair share of carries. So the hope right now is that he's going to end up being pretty good. We did well with Brandon Oliver last season, so hoping for the best with him. 32 picks forward to the 3rd round we go, where once again the pick is in and was used to select Frank Norman, left end, Florida, and another disappointing pick here, reached by about 25 picks, and then again with the normal dev trait. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it seemed like based on team need, I was constantly in a position to have to reach a bit for guys, and while Norman here does do some things okay, he doesn't really do anything special, and for a 3rd rounder, you'd like to be getting more than what I got here. As we move to the 2nd half of the draft, though, we have the 29th pick in the 4th round, and with that selection, the Portland Riverhogs take Leighton Rasby, running back, New Mexico State. So this was labeled as a good pick, but again, the theme of this draft has been mediocre players with normal dev traits. Don't get me wrong, though, Rasby can have a role with our team as a power back. He's only got 85 speed, but 83 trucking, 80 break tackle, and he can provide a nice change of pace with Spencer Ware, and then 2nd round pick Hamid Heyman. But similar to the 3rd round, you'd like to be getting a little bit more talent or potential here. On to the 5th round, where with the 157th pick in the draft, the Portland Riverhogs select Sanchez Bassi, left tackle, Montana, and this is another disappointing pick. Only reached by 4 spots, but with his 3 attributes, they looked good, and at 24 years old, 70 overall, and with normal normal dev, it's going to be really hard for him to have much of a career with us. That might be asking a lot out of basically a 6th rounder, but was hoping for a bit better player here. He is a decent pass blocker, but with Carrington Butler taken last year, it's going to be hard for him to find a role and to make his way up the depth chart. And nearing the end of the draft, we have our second to last pick, where the 29th pick in the 6th round was used to take Brian Windsor, left outside linebacker, New Hampshire. So this pick I actually got pretty good value on, 58 spots ahead in true talent than his selection, and he was an undrafted true talent, so not a bad pick here in the 6th. He has 90 hit power and 81 power moves, so he does have some limited tools, but again, with the normal dev, it's going to be hard for him to progress further, but we'll definitely be looking to at least have him involved in certain formations. And we reach the end of the draft just 3 picks shy of Mr. Irrelevant, and with the 29th pick in the 7th round, the Portland Riverhogs take Walker McDonald, middle linebacker, Maine, another undrafted true talent and a reach by 15 picks. Nothing special, but outside of Anthony Hitchens, my inside linebacker group is pretty weak, so he could definitely find his way into playing time despite his low rating. So that wraps up the draft, and now I'll take you through some of the league picks, starting with the first overall pick in the draft in Adrian Daniel, who is a very solid left outside linebacker taken by the Patriots, but does only have quick dev. The second pick was used by the Vikings to take Sherman Hall, an 80 overall left tackle from Tennessee. Again, only quick dev, but a pretty good offensive lineman, but definitely has some weaknesses when you look at his ratings. At 4th overall, the Broncos took the highest rated player in the draft in right end Harmon Meeks. At 82 overall, he slots in immediately as a starter as the Broncos look for some kind of answer for Patrick Mahomes and the Riverhogs. Following that pick, the Raiders got themselves a stud of their own as they took cornerback Vincent Haynes, superstar dev, 80 overall with 98 speed and 81 man coverage. We should be seeing plenty of him against the Raiders over the next several seasons. At number 7 overall, the Bengals took left end Griffin Wilcox, who has star potential and looks to be a perfectly serviceable pass rusher in his rookie season with 82 power moves and 76 finesse moves. 2 picks later at number 9, the Buccaneers took free safety Dominic Okun, who had a draft story that mentioned him shutting down wide receiver Dre Skinner, and Okun turned out to be a stud at 81 overall with superstar dev to give the Bucs a premium back-end defender. And with the following pick, the Titans also took a draft story player in middle linebacker Banks Redmond, who had the family legacy story, and he too turned out to be a solid choice, 81 overall and star dev, as well as 84 speed, 90 tackle, and 90 pursuit. The Raiders, with 2 picks in the top 11, used their second selection to add another 80-plus player as they get Scott Eachus at right tackle. Eachus is a pure power blocker and takes over for a retiring Donald Penn to give the Raiders a very solid bookend to protect Derek Carr. At number 15 overall, the Panthers picked up an 80 overall and right outside linebacker Brian Carr. He has quick dev and immediately slots into a starting role for the Panthers and has 80 speed, 87 tackle, and 82 block shed. And then just before our pick, our other division foe in the Chargers took left outside linebacker Rodman Norwood. He wouldn't have been a scheme fit for us, so we likely wouldn't have looked at him too much, but he seems like a decent player as a run-stopping linebacker. And then going back to some of the choices I made, as mentioned, I was debating between Dalton Hargrove and Spencer Buttram, and it looks like Buttram probably would have been the better way to go. He would have become an immediate starter for me, but with the normal dev trait, it wasn't too big of a loss, I think. So as you guys saw, I took Hamid Heyman in the 2nd round, but the back I was really hoping would fall to me was Tomas Dean. His 3 attributes looked really good, but in the end, he ended up going to Cleveland at 22 in the 2nd round and was only 1 overall better, but was a scheme fit. 85 speed is kind of rough, but 86 break tackle, 85 trucking, 84 stiff arm could have been a lot of fun, but not too much of a loss here either, I don't think. Then just a few picks after my 2nd rounder, the Broncos picked up their quarterback of the future in Austin Canfield with the 4th pick in the 3rd round, 80 overall, superstar dev, and some very solid accuracy ratings. Interesting thing here, though, is that Case Keenum is also an 80 overall, so it's going to be interesting to see how bad they screw this one up. Moving to the later rounds, though, Sanchez McCargo was a running back that I was hoping would fall to me in the 4th before I ultimately took Leighton Rasby, but he ended up going well before my pick and turned out to not be too bad, would have been a scheme fit, and looks better all around, I think, than Rasby does. And then lastly, with that same 4th rounder I used to select Rasby, I was debating between him and this guy, Jarrell Lindsley, and this may have been a slightly better pick based on overall, but as far as fitting on the team, I doubt he would have gotten as much play as Rasby will be. And then the last thing I'm going to show you guys here are any post-draft free agents or undrafted rookies rookies that I signed, starting here with Xavier Howard. I wasn't active in free agency, as you guys saw, but this was a cheap post-free agency option, and I think with how I play, where I slide Kendall Fuller inside in nickel and dime, Howard's going to be a better option to have on the outside than Steven Nelson, and it also adds some nice depth to that position. And coming back to the squad is going to be Buck Houston, who we had to withdraw negotiations with at the beginning of the video. I like his skill set for a backup, and again, he adds some depth at tackle, which is always nice to have. At right guard, we have our first undrafted free agent in Zachary Rugemer. Interior line depth is something I greatly suffer from right now, and by signing him, he immediately becomes my best backup interior lineman and actually has a better overall than my starting left guard, Derek Reisner. So a bit of a steal here, and he's pretty much a lock for the final 53 already. Another undrafted rookie free agent we added was Hanson Goodrich. Our backup quarterback spot hasn't really been pretty for the entire franchise, but it's always been pretty much known that if Mahomes goes down, we're anyway, so I'm always looking for guys, but at the same time, I'm not too worried about having a super solid backup. We also added wide receiver Javian Kelly, and this was a move I made because I'm going to attempt to trade Albert Wilson during the preseason. I actually attempted to trade him during last season before the deadline, but didn't get any offers, and losing him would actually leave me with only 4 wide receivers. So Kelly here is out of a similar mold as Long Winborn, but doesn't quite have the same ability. Here we have another post-draft free agent signing in Vincent Valentine. In now having a 4-3 layer to our defensive playbook, it was important that I had more than just 2 defensive tackles in case of stamina or injury, and Valentine here is actually better overall wise than our free agent signing Elijah Qualls. And here we have another defensive tackle in the form of rookie free agent Harmon Doyle out of Duke, and he's actually got a quick dev trait. He doesn't really do anything special, but as a 3rd or a 4th defensive tackle in this case, he's perfectly serviceable. And then the last rookie free agent I signed was center Trey Castillo. As mentioned before, my interior line depth is really bad, and just by signing him, he is significantly better than anything else I have at center backup wise. So just another depth signing here with a very high chance of making the final 53. But that's going to do it here, guys. I'm hoping this video didn't run too long. Last season's was, I think, just over 17 minutes, and I had a bit more stuff here, and I know these videos aren't nearly as exciting as ones with gameplay, but hopefully I covered enough and you guys like what you saw. Not an overly impressive offseason at all, but we were kind of strapped from the start and then had a poor draft to boot. But we should be getting into the preseason soon. This last patch for Madden has screwed some things up, so I'm kind of waiting on that to be fixed before I move forward. But I'm working on a commentary compilation and a video about my slider set, so I think once all of that is out there, things should be good with Madden by then. But hope you guys enjoyed the offseason. Just like the recap video, if there was something I missed here or you thought I could have done better, just let me know in the comments. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in as we get ready for season 3 of the Riverhogs franchise. And until next time, thanks for watching.